Hi there. In this video, we will go through the project on Alteryx about the purchasing order splitting. And before we go through the project, let me give you a quick overview of the project and show you the Excel file that we need to work on. So let me share my screen here. And here is the overview of the project. And in auditing, when we do audit on the purchasing department or the inventory department, we usually check the authorization of the purchase order. In some cases, the company puts a limit for the purchasing manager to approve the orders that are at a certain amount or below. And in this example, I assume that the threshold for the purchase order approval by the purchasing manager is 50,000. If it's above 50,000, the purchasing manager should give it to a higher level person that can authorize it or to a committee. But the fraud might happen if the purchasing manager, instead of pushing the order to a higher level, he split the order into two small orders below the threshold. So for example, if an order here, as you can see, for 75,000, the purchasing manager might split it into two small orders, one for maybe 40,000, the other one 35. So if we add them together, we get 75, but this is non-compliance. And I'm going to show you now the certain data set that we can work out to discover this fraud. So here are the steps of the project where we are going to create 3 steps, and the final one, we will make the output on Excel file. Now let us take a look on the Excel file here. As you can see, this is a long Excel file. If you scroll down, it's 66,000 record, 183. So this is a long file. And as you can see, it has purchase order number, but also it has 27 fields, which means it's a big data set. What I care about is if any purchase order is still active, and the purchase order has been sent to the supplier in 2 days or in a period frame of 3 days. So we need to check those ones. But if you check, you will see here there are some inactive order and some might be active. But also if you scroll down, you will see here there are some spaces, which means the person on the database did not enter anything. So I need to take this Excel file, create a workflow on Alteryx to analyze the active purchase order line and to check the period to be within 3 days or less. So let me close it off. And in your project, you can either download the Alteryx on your desktop, or you can use our virtual lab here. And here is the Alteryx workflow I created for you, and I'm going to go through it. But this is what you need to upload on Brightspace. First of all, we learned from the previous project that for any project, you need to create a label. How to do that? You go to documentation, and then you drag comment tool, and you put it here. Once you put it, you put the title, purchase order splitting or purchasing orders splitting. You change the font, you change the background color, and then you hit here, apply, and then you create this one. And then you can see here the 4 steps. The first step, we upload the Excel file, and because I already uploaded earlier, I will hit run, and I should be able to see the exact number of records I show it to you, which is here 66,182. But Alteryx is very effective in using the memory space of the computer. So Alteryx is showing here 3,064 out of all these records. And as you can see, there is 28 fields, which means 28 columns. And we know from the previous project, whenever we upload the file, we need to explain it. So I go here to the annotation and I put purchase order or uploading purchase order. You need to explain it somehow. And once we do that, we go to in, out, and then drag browse, put it here, just to identify the records. So if you go here into browse, you should be able to see the 28 fields and their types, whether it's alphabet, strings, or numeric, or calendar, date, and so on. So we upload the data, we browse the data, and now I need to go straight into my work. What do we mean by my work here? I need to filter the file by the purchasing order line, which is here. Can you see the PO line status? I need to keep all the inactive in one section, all the active and the spaces in another section. So I go to here, preparation, and then I choose filter. I put it here, and I use the custom filter. How to use this one, if you click here on the open bracket, it will open up all the fields for you. So what I did, I used the open bracket, and once you say open bracket here, and you scroll down, you should be able to see the PO line status, which I put it. And then I close the bracket, and then we put exclamation sign equal, which means not equal, and then you open quotation sign and write inactive. So you will type all this part by yourself, exclamation mark equal inactive. This means we put all the inactive here in one section, and this is what I'm going to exclude, and this will make 56,000 record out of 66,183. So now the big chunk of the file has been excluded from my analysis, and now I need to run my analysis only on the active or the spaces. Then I need to remove all the extra field. I have here 28 fields, so I feel this one is not required because I'm going to judge the purchase order by the value, not by the quantity. So I excluded the order quantity. And I'm also going to exclude these ones. All the last fields, I'm going to exclude them because I don't need them. So I remove the ticker from all of them, and then I hit run. And remember all the time to add explanation. So I put here adjust data types and remove the undesired code. So now I reduced my field from 28 to 90. Then I will jump to the next part where I will select all the purchase order that has unique purchase order number. And if the purchase order number has been repeated, I will remove the duplicate. So how can I use it? This unique, I get it from here. Under preparation, I go to unique. I connect it to the select. And then you can see here that the unique are 417 records. And the duplicated 9,231 records. So now I reduced my 66,183 records into 470. This is the good thing about Alteryx that can help you to do a lot of work by dragging and dropping the tools. Now I need to put the annotation and I say unique purchase order IDs. And once I finish, I can highlight all these ones and I make right click to create a container. And this is what I did. And once you create the container, you need to put the title, put a color, and this would be the first step. So what I did in this step is trying to reduce this huge file into a small file that has unique purchase order numbers, and then remove all the duplicate. Now, what shall I do with this unique number? I need to add them together by vendors, and under each vendor by the number of orders I sent. From where I get the summarization tool? From here, transform, and then you see the summarization tool. You drag it down here, connect it to the unique, and if you scroll down here, you should be able to see the vendor ID number 4 from the bottom. And then you go to here, add. The first time you choose group by, the second time you choose count. And this is what I did, group by and count. So as you can see, I put the unique, the vendor ID unique, and under each vendor ID, I put the number of orders that I made it from this vendor. You might see here 1, 2, 3, but one of them, for example, it has 17 purchase order, another one 8 purchase order. Those are the ones I'm gonna check. The one that has 1, I don't need to worry about it, but the ones that has more than 1, I'm gonna do extra work on that. Then, once I do that, then I need to go for the count that is more than 1. And this is what you can see it here. So here, if you click here, you will see that all the purchase order, all the vendor that has more than 1, I put them in one group here. All the vendors that has only 1, I excluded. So now I even reduce the 417 record into 54 records. Now I need to join the original data set with the multiple counts that I found it here in join. And to do that, I use join, where I get the unique and the join together, and I use the vendor ID as the key between the two databases. And of course, I remove it here from the right database because it has to be mentioned 1. And now for the joint, if I get all the information here with the joint, I end by, for this joint, 186 records. And for those ones, I need to make sorting. So I will sort them by the vendor ID ascending and the transaction date ascending. But before I jump to the third one, let us go to the second step, highlight the 3 tools, and then you make right click, add a new container, and then you can write here, step 2, add multiple purchase order, and make sure to put explanation for each one of those tools. So now I got the big file, I reduce it into a small file that has single vendors, under each vendor, multiple purchase order that we have done from this vendor. Now for those multiple purchase order, I need to check their dates. And you know the select, I got it here from preparation, if you would like to go for it. It's here, sorting. The second one, select multiple row formula. So I drag this one, multi-row formula. And when you go for multi-row formula, number 1, please, if you have this button highlighted, make sure to highlight create new field. And you write this one, this is, I wrote it, test underscore tran underscore date. And of course you use end 32. And then if it's here, it's highlighted, remove it and use only vendor ID. And if you scroll down here, yeah, it's only vendor. And for this one, once you click on create, you will see here there is one icon for variable, and this is under the configuration, by the way. Another one function, another one saved expression. So here for the variable, what do you need to do for this one? I would like to get the active row, and then I run the analysis for this one. So here I click on the active row. For the function, I need to work on the date time. So here, date time, you go to date time difference. If you click on the date time difference, it will explain here to you what does it mean. Subtract the second argument from the first one and return integer. So we subtract the transaction date, this one, from that one and see how many days are between those two. So once you make double click here, it will go down here, as you can see, because I did double click. So it entered for me the function which I already entered. And then I go here, I open the bracket and I put the square bracket and I choose this one. Row plus 1 trend data. So you click on this one. If you make a click here, let me put it here. If you make double click here, row plus 1, it will enter it automatically. So you don't need to type this one, by the way. You just need to click on it and then Alteryx will copy it for you. So this would be my first entry. So I say go to row plus 1. It means check the following line after the transaction. And then you put comma, and then you go to the trend date. Where is this? It's here, the active. Row 0, if you check here trend date, I will stand here just outside. If you click, you will see trend date. And this is what you need to put it under the comma. So first, you get the parentheses, you go to row plus 1 and drag this one, and then minimize it. Then you go to row 0 and you track trend date, and then comma, and then you type this one, quotation sign, days, comma, sorry, quotation sign, and then open the parentheses. And then you run the analysis here. I know you might not see something different if you click it here, but let me minimize this one and show you what happened. When you create this one, there is a new field that has been created here at the end, where Alteryx is taking the transaction date from here, this trend date, this one, and subtract the next line from the previous line and see the difference between them, which is here in my first one, 269. Then Alteryx will jump to the third line and subtract it from the next line, and then put the difference, which is null. And we keep going like this. So this one, I call it test trend date, which means testing the day after the transaction date. Then I need to do another calculation using the same tool, but here I will use another column and I call it previous test, which means I take the date before the transaction date and subtract it from the transaction date. So here you create new column and you give a name to this column, prev test underscore trend underscore date, and you do the same. You go for the function, you go for the date time difference, this one, and then you go to the variable. But here, instead of having the transaction date plus 1, you go to the transaction date first, which is trend date, this one, and then comma, and then you go to the previous one, row minus 1, trend date, this one, and you double click, and you get here, row minus 1 transaction date. So now I calculate the number of days between the transaction date and the previous date. And you put comma, you calculate the days, and once you hit run, you will see that there is a new column has been created. So now there are two new columns, test transaction date and previous test transaction date. And as you can see here, it was 269. Now it's jumped to here 269. And this null went earlier here to be in the first. Now I need to calculate the gap of 3-day period. One before the transaction date, and I assume one after the transaction date, and this is what I'm going to use in the filter. I say, give me the test transaction date, which is the new column here, that is less than or equal 3. So I talk about 3 days here, or previous test transaction date less than or equal 3, any one of them. And then where do you get this one? It's the filter that you use it in preparation, and you custom the filter, and then you put it. Again, before you leave it, once you hit this one and you run the 4 tools, make sure to put explanation to each one of them. Make sure to highlight all of them, and then create a new container and give it a type. Now, once you finish, you need to take this filter that came from here, you put it in an Excel file, and let me hit run. And you will see there are 10 records here that have suspicious number. Yep, 10 records. And you can see here, it has been made by this buyer. And the date for the transaction, you can see some of them in the same date, but then I need to check the purchase amount. And of course, if you see here 2 amounts like below 50,000, that's fine. But when you add here, you see there is one order by 146,000, another one by 294. And this can tell you that there are some big orders that you need to examine. And then you have the browse to identify the fields. What you need to do is once you finish this workflow, you need to save it. So your final file that you need to submit it is this one, and you should go to the output here, which you drag it from the in out, and you save it as an Excel file or CSV file, and then you submit it to Brightspace along with this workflow. So here for the workflow, you go to File, Save As, Browse, and you put it as YXMD. And once you do that, you go to Options, then Export Workflow, then Browse, and then you put it as YXZP as a zip package. And then you put the name of the file, purchasing orders splitting, with your last name, and submit the package with this Excel file on Brightspace. If you need anything, let me know. And I hope that you find those projects on Alteryx useful to teach you how to run workflow that can make audit to the data files and save it for future use. Wish you all the best. Thank you.